which bedroom types that you think will be the most popular types?
I think that the 2-bed plus study, it sits at a pretty sweet spot.
Between the premium and the flexi will definitely be more favorable.
This one is the water jet pool.
You have to pay a premium to enjoy the void space that comes along with this penthouse unit. This entire project.
Something that's very interesting is that on this particular step, which is step number 1, there's a drop-off point. You have a gym. So we're gonna head in. Let's go.
Mission control, we have liftoff.
Alright, so welcome to our brand new series where we review every single new launch projects in Singapore starting from this year in 2023, and that is our vision for this year because we want to review all 47 different projects, correct or not?
Yes.
Are we going to be able to accomplish that?
Of course.
Alright, awesome. So how we're going to do this is through a banter style, and we're going to discuss this together over here with you, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's episode, and with me will be Grace as well as Rong. So for today's episode, we're going to review the Botany at Dairy Farm. This project is being launched by Sim Lian, and while we are discussing about this project, we hope that you can join with us. Of course, how you join with us is through the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube, and of course, feel free to comment on Facebook or YouTube on our comment section below. Okay, so what's going to happen is that the preview is already ongoing right now, so you can visit the Botany Show Flat, which is located on the actual site. And the launch date is stipulated to be on the 4th of March. And by the time you're watching this, it has already been launched because we took some time for editing. However, I think that our core objectives is that we hope that through the review session, we can add value to you as an audience in the event if you're hunting for a new launch this season. Now, I would like to maybe just share this disclaimer first. Okay, because in Singapore, some property buyers love to buy only resale properties. Some property buyers only love to buy new launch properties, right? And sometimes, you know, in the market space, maybe when you talk to your friends and you say that, hey, I want to visit this show flat, and maybe your friend will say that, hey, I think you should only buy resale because new launch you have to wait for 3 years and stuff. But some friends will say that, hey, you should only buy new launch because new launch can see appreciation faster and there's progressive payments and stuff like that. So there's different sides of the coin. And what this series hopes to achieve is that this series will serve you very well if you happen to be somebody that only loves brand new properties. And sometimes maybe you are contemplating bringing resale and new launches, and you just want to understand, you know, what are some of the key benefits of buying some of the new launch projects. This series will also entail into a specific core group of audience that firstly, you only love to buy brand new properties, perhaps because you want to take advantage of the progressive payment. You would love to have that 1-year defect warranty period after you take possession of the keys at TOP stage. You don't want to buy a property that somebody lived in before. You want to minimize your renovation because most of the things have been done by the developer, and you only need to come with your lights and furnitures and stuff like that. So this will speak very well to this core group of audience, right? And of course, along the way, we'll talk about some of the pros and cons and pricing mechanism and stuff like that. And let's kickstart with mainly the project location first. So I'm going to flash the screen, and then as we talk, we'll talk a little bit. So maybe let's have Grace bring us through a little bit about the fact sheet.
Okay, so let's talk about the Botany at Dairy Farm. I think it's a really exciting project, and it's in, of course, the Dairy Farm estate. And in Dairy Farm, you know, it's known for its luscious greenery. If you were to pull up the entire Singapore map, if we were to zoom into this Dairy Farm area, it's one of the rare few areas that you will find this much greenery in the vicinity, you know. So if you're someone that definitely you want to live in the heart of nature, I think this is somewhere you can pay attention to. Now, the developer is Sim Lian. So, Sim Lian, you know, do you want to share a bit about the developer with us?
Okay, sure. So Sim Lian has developed quite a number of projects in Singapore. Largest project being Treasure at Tampines, Clover by the Park at Bishan, etc. So this is a 99-year leasehold tenure development. Of course, the land starts from 8th of June 2022. On paper, the TOP date is December 2027. But of course, from developer, right now, the expected TOP is around first quarter 2026. So it is not too far off. So this development, of course, consists of about 386 units.
Right. So for this year, landscape is a little bit different from last year. So if you have seen our latest Nuggets on the Growth series, we talk about new launch trending, as well as the latest webinar that was just concluded recently in February. We talk about the fact that this year there's going to be 47 different new launches. Last year there was only like close to 17 new launches, right? And of course, last year's take-up rate was extremely high because every launch developers achieved close to in between 50 to 70% one shot on the first day. This year, of course, the projected one is that because of the array of launches plus the high interest rate right now, a lot of buyers are, of course, waiting on the sideline. So projected kind of launches take-up rate will probably be maybe in the range of about 30 to 50% on day one, right? So what this means is that, of course, with this 47 new launches, you can take advantage as a buyer standpoint to observe and, of course, look at different launches of your choices. But also take note that the big ones with more than 300 units are actually not a lot. So how many projects are there? You just did this like fact sheet calculation.
I can't remember offhand. I'm trying to pull out the data.
Okay. So above
500 units, there are only 7 projects.
Right. Above 300, maybe about 10 plus. However, there are only 7 projects that are above 500 units. And you did a research on all the 47 different launches on the project size.
Yes, correct. There are only 8 projects out of the 47 new launches that are actually within the unit size of 301 units to 500 units. And Botany at Dairy Farm is one of them. And the majority of the project launches, actually 32 of them are actually within 300 unit size.
Right. Yeah. And for today's context, how we're going to so-called, I wouldn't say rate this property, but when we analyze, we always want to refer back to some of the key fundamental characteristics on our MOAT analysis. And of course, our MOAT analysis team is working very hard around the clock to develop the new launch version for MOAT analysis. Right now, we don't have the resale version, but this was an article that our Insights team actually came up with. So we wrote 2 articles on Botany. Basically, we analyzed all the surrounding projects in terms of their MOAT scoring, and this was what was the result that came up with. So basically, what we want to ascertain firstly is that we want to look at 300 over units, would there be a potential good volume effect? Most of the time, if you purchase a property that's above 300 units, you usually will have quite a good bandwidth in terms of transaction volume. What do you think, Grace?
I think the volume effect is important because when we look at the valuations of, or rather when the banks look at the valuations of the property, they want to see what are the past transactions and they'll kind of use that as a benchmark for your property, right? So at about 386 units, I think that's pretty healthy in terms of the volume effect. Of course, there are other bigger projects out there as well, but this would be kind of a mid-sized project as well. And actually, the bulk of the volume of the units will actually be the 3 bidders. Yeah, right. Later when we take a look at the unit mix, we can also see that actually the main focus will be for the bigger unit types in the project as well.
45%.
Yeah.
What do you think about unit mix, Yurong?
I think like the unit mix, of course, I think how the developer structured this is mainly for own stay. We have 45% of the units that are actually 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom premium kind of units. 15% dedicated to 4 bidders, and 5-bedroom we have 4%. And overall, we don't have 1-bedroom unit types in this development. The smallest is actually a 1+ study, which takes up about 9% of the project size. And all the 2-bedders actually work out to be 27%. So as you can see, if I were to just sum up very quickly, 64% of the project is dedicated to 3 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms. Yeah, and hence it is more attraction for like own stayers rather than like investment properties like which will mainly have your 1 and 2 bedroom kind of unit mix.
Yeah. So this is in the OCR region, and of course just now we talked about the first aspect, which is to look out for the volume effect.
Yeah.
So whenever we talk about the volume effect, the core purpose is also to come up to this objective, is that we want to see which property, when at the point of investment, when you invest into it now, in 3 to 5 years time, which property has the highest kind of possibility of seeing a better return on investment compared to other properties. Of course, we're not trying to say that, small boutique projects are not investable, because some people, they still prefer small boutique projects because they value privacy, they value different kind of things. They don't want to be in a large estate. So there's a lot of different kind of preferences. And for the context of the review, usually when we look at this is that we want to ascertain from a ROI point of view, in 3 to 5 years time, does this project score well? Yeah, and that's the main purpose of a review session over here. So one thing I want to share with you, Grace, is that what do you think about the upcoming GLS around it? Because there's about 5 to 6 plots upcoming. And of course, if you look at this, let's just talk about a little bit about some of the projects around, right? And just now you pointed out very clearly is that this theme that I think Sim Lian is trying to pivot on is the nature, the lush greenery, and you can always see the theme of the project through the brochure. And of course, with this, there was a couple of projects around it. The latest one that was completed in terms of launch phase was Dairy Farm Residences. You have Forest Residences, you have Eco Sanctuary, you have Treehouse, you have Skywoods, and of course you have that very huge estate that I think just failed en bloc, which is Dairy Farm Estate, the freehold one. Yeah. And right across us will be Hillview MRT Station. Yeah. And then that will go into the whole spectrum of the Hillview property. So for today's context, let's just focus on this portion right here, because I think some of the audiences that love this part, they will want to focus on this part. Audiences that love Hillview, they will love to focus on Hillview. And later we'll be comparing some of the price range of the resale versus this new launch as well. But meantime, what do you think about this in terms of the GLS upcoming land plots potential?
All right, so if we were to look at the URA master plan, the Botany at Dairy Farm is actually in a super interesting location. So if you were to pull it up, you can see that the land plots around are, designated for residential development. What this means is that you're actually one of the first movers, so-called, right? Other than Dairy Farm, which is the recent new launch, and then we have next up, it will be the Botany. And after Botany, the rest of the projects have yet to be announced. But what this means is that when you are in an area where possibly you see that the URA master plan has marked out a lot of future growth that could be in the area, it also means that being one of the first movers in this area, you could have a longer runway to go. Right, because if you are one of the last few projects to come up, you will be the newest. That, of course, there's a perk, right? You will always be the newest project in the area until there's some kind of en bloc or activity that goes on. But being the newest also means that you will be the one leading the prices. If there are new residential plots of land that will be developed, what that could mean for you is that with these developments, there could be future growth potential and other new launches leading your price, right? Because we know that resale and new launches is always like a cat and mouse kind of action. Right. When the new launches come out, it leads the resale prices, and then when the resale prices go up, they make the new launches look attractive because of their age. Right. Yeah, so there's this action going on.
Right, awesome. Thanks, Grace. Yurong, what do you think about the targeted launch price? I mean, this is, of course, also sort of like on the ground branded as the lowest PSF launch of 2023. What do you think about the launch price?
Based on launch prices that are shared by the developer, of course, if you see on the screen, 1+ study, we have 998, starting from 998,000. 2-bed, 1 bath, we have like 1.2 million starting from. 3-bedroom will start from 1.73 million. This is the one without any utility room. And 4-bedder will be from 2.39 million. And 5-bedroom will be from 2.88. So the lowest PSF is actually 1871 PSF, but of course that is for like the 5-bedder unit type. If you are looking at like the smaller unit types, right, actually the PSF is starting from about 195 something, like almost 1960 per square feet. Okay, so in general, in terms of pricing wise, of course, the land price that was sold among all the 47 new launches, I would say this is one of the lower ones. And that's why we can still expect to see like launch prices starting from below 2000 PSF, whereas the other launches that's coming up down the road this year, most of them will definitely exceed $2,000 per square feet.
Right. And how about quantum-wise? Like, what do you think about the quantum, Grace?
If we were to look at the quantum-wise, because they do not have 1 bidders, right? So obviously the starting quantum will be a little bit higher, on the higher end. And I think that is a pretty strategic move. Located in the OCR, right? So perhaps the target audience is HDB upgraders, or maybe more towards family types or young couples, right? Making the entry a little bit more, maybe not really towards the maybe single investor type, but maybe more of towards those who are looking to young couples, that they want a 1+ study, work from home kind of situation. So of course the quantum, because there are no smaller 1 bidders, is starting at a 1+ study, the quantum will be a little bit higher in the market, right? So if we were to look at the starting quantum, you are about starting at about slightly shy of the $1 million mark. And then if we were to move up to the 2 bidders, then you are looking at something 1.14, 1.28, and for the 2+ study is at about 1.4. So for something that is about similar size, you do have to fork out that additional premium, but of course that is because you are the newest project in the area, right? So entry price-wise, I would say still pretty palatable because you're in the OCR region. But of course, it'll be more suitable for someone that is looking for something newer, right? You want something brand new, you want something to invest in, you like the progressive payment, then yeah. The entry price will be a little bit higher like, compared to resale in the area.
Right. So what Grace has just shared was actually to look at the surrounding resale projects. Whenever a new launch is going to be launched, one of the key homework that you want to do as a buyer is that you want to first look at this new launch price in conjunction with some of the other new launches in the same OCR area, within the same district, and that's two levels of comparison. So basically within the region, that's one. Number two is within the same district, if there were to be other new launches. Number two is that you want to look at the existing resale properties, because what's going to happen is that 3 to 4 years later, when you collect your keys, your property is going to be the latest resale property that will be the new kid on the block. So you want to see, based on your entry quantum, and of course your PSF will naturally be higher because you're buying something at a newer tenure. You have a longer gestation period than existing resale properties. So the second thing is to look at how are the existing resale properties doing in terms of the current asking price and transacted price. And if you were to look at, of course, some of the pricing analysis just based on the age category on this particular chart, you will notice that there's two main dates to look at. One is the completed date. However, you want to look at the tenure start date. So for example, for Botany, the tenure start date is from when?
2022.
2022, right? And then if you were to look at your closest sort of like competitor, that is technically Dairy Farm Residences, which was a mixed-use development, that was from 2018. And then Forest is from 2011, Skywood's 2012, Eco Sanctuary 2012, and Treehouse is 2009. So when you look at that, naturally speaking, a new launch PSF will definitely be higher than the resale PSF. And Yurong, why is that so?
Okay, so for example, in comparison, like why new launches are always at a higher benchmark, because even if you are comparing the resale in the same locale, we are not really comparing apple to apple. It's like a little bit like apple to oranges. Number one, why new launch is higher? Because it has a longer runway. For example, comparison to Eco, Botany actually is like 10 years younger, right? So naturally, it has to be higher in terms of the premium for the longer time period. Second thing is, I always mention, let's say for example, we go into a resale condo that is 20 years versus a brand new launch. Of course, I can go in at a lower per square feet for like a resale property. I can re-renovate the entire place to my liking. I can change the entire layout. But something that you always cannot change for a resale is the facade of the development. You cannot change like how the facilities are maintained at the moment, etc. And that's why there will always be a group of buyers that prefer new launches, and there will be a group of buyers that prefer resale, really depending on their own risk profile, their goals and objectives.
Yep. Right, and we want to look at this pricing table. Okay, so we call this a pricing matrix. Of course, disclaimer is that this is not the final launch price. This is basically an estimated launch price based on the information that was already being released by the developer. So how do so-called usually such a pricing matrix get so-called tabulated is based on the size and the estimated launch PSF price. So we take the estimated launch PSF price, multiply basically by the size of it, this part multiplied by the size, and that's how we get this particular pricing. So, of course, we want to give a shout out to our tagging partner, Rain. And of course, Rain has been partnering with our PropertyLimBrothers Inside Sales consultants when it comes to some of the new launch show flat arrangement, providing us with some of the content that we are featuring on this particular new launch review. Okay, so coming back to this price matrix, right? Most of the time, though we want to talk about new launches, but I'm of the personal perception that when a project is being launched, especially in such a market as today's 2023 season, right, that I think not all new launches will achieve like above 50% rate, because there's going to be 47, and that's a great thing for, of course, buyers to select from. But I do think that certain types of bedroom configuration types, because of their sizing, because of their quantum price, they will be cleared out faster than the rest. So usually we want to hunt for which one will actually clear out fast, which one will be balanced. Okay, let me just give you an illustration example. So the last season, there was this project, fantastic project at Leaden Green, all right? So Leaden Green, of course, when it's being launched, you'll notice that towards the tail end, the bigger units will actually clear out first. Yeah, and then the balance units in the inventory, which has already eventually been cleared already, were the 2-bedders, right? So there's always a reasoning because of this, because either it's because of the demographics of the buyers around that district, maybe they prefer bigger size units and they were hunting for 3-4 bedders and they do not maybe prefer they do not really prefer the smaller units. And that's one core reason why certain types of units get cleared out first. Now, why is this important to ascertain as a buyer? Is because when you take your keys during the TOP stage, you also want to understand, in this particular locale and demographics, will your bedroom type be easier to exit than the other bedroom type? So for this Botany, maybe we don't have the crystal ball, but maybe just for a fun quiz lah, right? Okay, of course our audience can also join us in this quiz just by keying in the comment section. So for Grace, which bedroom types, maybe name the top 3 types that you think will be the most popular types, based on the quantum or maybe the bedroom types and things like that.
So I think for me, being in this, dairy farm area,
Right.
I think that the 2-bed plus study.
2 plus study? Okay,
yes.
I'm going to take out for you first. All right. 2 plus study, all
Okay.
right.
I think that it sits at a pretty sweet spot below the 1.5 mil quantum. Yeah, so if we are launching at about 1,009 lah. Yeah, so it does kind of hit that sweet spot for even if you were to stretch it up. It's below 1.5 and the sizing is actually pretty good for 2 plus study, right? So the 2 plus study configuration, if you were to take a look as well, it does have an area where you can use as a room or an additional space.
Right.
I feel that is pretty flexible. It's a good entry price for young couples, maybe small families. So I think that at below 1.5, it doesn't cross into the 3-bedder kind of quantum, which makes it a pretty attractive buy, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. How about your second and third choice?
Second and third choice. Second and third choice. My second choice, I think, is actually. Can I swap my first choice? So that 2 plus study is my second.
Okay.
That 2-bedroom plus study will be my second choice. Okay, my first choice is definitely the 3-bedroom plus flexi. Actually, I think it's a fantastic concept, this flexi thing, where if you were to look at the floor plan, the flexi room actually, compared to if it was a study, it is not enclosed, right? So the flexi room gives you plenty of, flexibility lah, so-called, to customize it to your needs if you need
Why
it as
not the
a
3
study.
plus study? Since they're only about 40 square feet apart.
Okay, so when we look at prices, right?
Because 3 plus study got home shelter plus study, and then of course the flexi one has only a study flexi. Why not pay a little bit more? About 6 or actually how much is it? 80,000 more.
Yeah, so I think if you are someone that you will need this home shelter space,
Then
so-called,
pay the 80,000.
then you can pay this $80,000 premium. But personally, I think that maybe not all buyers will need this extra home shelter space, right?
Right.
So perhaps they can make use of that flexi space, to configure the room to their needs. They can use it as a storage, but it not being designated as a home shelter gives you more flexibility to make it to a study room, a storage room, or any kind of like walk-in wardrobe.
It's very multi-purpose because they have entrance right from the walkway, you have entrance from the yard.
Exactly.
You can be a hobby room as well, or like a guest room.
Or man cave.
Man cave. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring out the floor plan. So what Grace was talking about is actually this flexi layout. And the flexi layout has no home shelter within it. And of course, this study room can be used as a storage room or really a legitimate study room. In fact, just to add on to that, I think that between the premium and the flexi will definitely be more favorable because they are both the same size. So if you look at them, exactly the same size. However, the key difference is whether you want a home shelter or this flexi room, which actually, this is definitely more flexible. It allows you to walk towards your yard and you can be a legitimate study room. And this home shelter has a different purpose. So I think this will definitely clear out faster than the premium version. What do you think, Rong?
I have a slightly different viewpoint. Personally, I love the 3-bed premium layout, especially the one. Okay, I love the 3-bed premium layout, but specifically for the Type C5 layout. Rationale is because if you were to compare out of all the 3-bedroom premium, 3-bedroom flexi, and 3 plus study, you realize that the Type C5, right, we actually have the longest length in terms of living and dining space of 6.2 meters. When we convert it to a 3 plus flexi, it's actually about 5.15 in terms of length. So like for somebody like myself,
Very long legs.
Very long legs. Okay, personally, I think that like the living dining
Are
space
you talking
is,
about this 6.2 meters?
yes, correct. So for like the living dining space, I feel that it is a very important area for like families to really hang out together. So like I will prioritize that, even though I understand that I might have to sacrifice that. I have a bomb shelter where I don't have such a flexible usage of space, but I think I would probably use it more like a storage area. I don't need to use it as a hobby room, so I would be inclined more towards having a bigger living room.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's about the needs of the family and what your priorities are, right? If you do need that extra room because you work from home, or you know you have a hobby or a collection, or you need a walk-in wardrobe for or whatsoever, or you have a helper, for example, right, that you may need this room for, then the flexi one definitely offers you more variability in terms of the usage. But let's say if you do need a home shelter and you are someone that prioritizes this kind of communal spaces, then I think the premium one will be more suitable. In terms of price point, they're also comparable, and you know the size is exactly the same.
The price of the premium and the flexi is actually about the same. Okay, so Grace, what's your top choice? You haven't thought about your top choice.
Top choice, 3-bedroom flexi.
Oh, then second, 2-bed plus study.
2-bed plus
Third
study.
choice.
Third choice,
No third choice.
5-bed.
Okay.
But definitely on paper, I would say that the 3-bed flexi, right, will clear off first, because usually the floor plans in the brochure that are given to you, right, for most of the time consumers wouldn't be able to really know the measurements, right? So like from a glance, it will look like, okay, because the flexi room is more flexible, so likely it will be a more popular choice.
Okay, I think that what's going to happen on launch, this is just my own outlook and forecast, is that I'm going to use the yellow zoning. Okay, so of course, it's a very quantum sensitive season because we already had, even in 2022, we still had a TDSR stress test increment to 4%, right? So, I mean, we have did various episodes that with everyone on TDSR from 2013 all the way until today, it has reduced the amount of loan quantum that an average buyer can actually get in terms of leveraging. The latest season is that a lot of buyers are actually combining names in order to get access to qualify for 75% loan quantum, right? So what I think will happen is that the lower quantum of the 2-bedder will still be the most hot favorite. Okay, the reason is because, so I'm going to circle this, and I think that this particular category will move, and then of course it will always start from the lowest quantum of every category. So after that, it will start to move here. Okay, I wouldn't really think that 2-bed plus study will move first. I think it will move maybe mid-season or end season. Okay, the reason is because later, Grace is going to present on, Grace is going to talk a lot about Terra Hills. And Terra Hills 2-bed is starting from $1.5 million. So I think that if somebody is okay with the Dairy Farm area, right, they might be okay with the Bukit Panjang, might be also okay with Pasir Panjang area, right? So they might move that 1.5 million budget for that 2+ study towards that freehold property. Okay, I do think that the 3-bed low quantum one is going to finish off, but the moment all these are finished off and they start to see that I have to pay $1.8 million for a 3-bed compact, right, they might just start to get towards that 3-bed flexi or 3-bed premium version. Yeah, so I do think that there will be a seasonality based on clearing away all the low quantum, the low floor ones. So maybe this project, what's going to happen is that compared to last time where we see new launches, always a high floor get taken out first. Because of the quantum play, nowadays it seems to be a reverse kind of psychology. People get the low quantums cleared out first. So low floors actually are getting very popular with new launches now. Second, third, fourth, fifth floor, they get cleared out first, and then they will hot at mid-level, then move on to the next category, low quantum get cleared out first. Yeah, so this is something that, based on my observation, might happen. What do you think, Rong?
I definitely agree with you. So maybe one of the examples we can compare with is Water Gardens at Canberra. So like a similar outside central region launch, and it's really like a quantum kind of play. And of course, I think when I was there during the first day of launch, the 3-bedroom lowest quantum one moved first.
Low floor.
That one is a low-rise development, so I would say everyone is almost like similar floor level. And 2-bed, 2-bath is also a popular category because 2+ study is like a sandwich in between, right? Yeah, like paying extra, but you don't really need that additional study space. So people will opt for like, for people who are own stay, there's some preference over a 2-bed, 2-bath versus a 2-bed, 1-bath. Because they find that in terms of practicality standpoint, they don't want to like rush for the toilet, you know, like in the morning peak hours. From an investment standpoint, then of course, like they just want to minimize their quantum, then that's why the 2-bed 1-bath will move.
Right, right. Awesome.
And what we realized that, so of course, water gardens, after all these smaller units are cleared out, and then the last few batches that are really sold are all the like 4-bedders. And so I think a similar behavior will perform in Botany at Dairy Farm.
Right, awesome. And I think one thing that we also want to note is that every time where there is a new launch that sprouts up within the region, it also creates sort of like a behavior change to the existing property owners that are owning resale properties around it. So let's just take an example. You will start to notice that perhaps some owners, they might start to remove their listings. Sometimes this happens because they want to see the performance of this particular new launch. So for example, if Botany is launching, they might wait and see and hold off their, maybe a owner at Skywoods want to list their property, right? Or maybe an owner at Treehouse or Eco Sanctuary want to list their property. They might remove their listing for a while, see how's the performance, and then relaunch their property in the resale market. Sometimes you will see that owners start adjusting their pricing upwards because they want to see whether they can take advantage of that shift. Okay, so sometimes one homework that you can do is that you can just sort into the latest, of course, portal, which is on Property Guru, which is the most popular portal in Singapore. And then you try to see what can buyers buy, right? So what can buyers buy in this area? And if somebody is looking for like a 2-bedder, what choices do they have in the surrounding resale? And then you try to bring back to this quantum play within Botany and see, is the gap very close or is the gap very far? Because I know if the gap is very close, then the new launch might have a better chance of doing well, right? If the gap is too far, then sometimes people that don't mind new launch or resale, they might say, I might as well just buy a resale because since, the quantum is so far apart, right?
I think this also speaks to how much growth potential you could possibly have, right? So if you are already entering the new launch at a pricing that is pretty far away from what the resale prices are, then maybe in terms of your upside, there might be certain constraints. So if you were to buy a launch at a price that is pretty close, then you will have a further runway to grow, right? Because there's still that disparity gap that we often talk about. So even if you were to increase by 200 to 300 PSF, there is still that healthy gap that you are not too far away from the resale prices then. Yeah.
Right. Of course, I think it's important to also not just look at the resale PSF versus the new launch PSF on the surface level. That's why we have the reset calculator where we take into account the balance list of the resale property, because it will not be meaningful if you look at like a resale PSF that is very low, but maybe they are like already 20 years old comparing to a new launch. So previously in like seasons before like this COVID bull run, we also observed that, for example, like in times where like 2014 all the way until like 2019, maybe like we use like Commonwealth Towers versus the Queens. Right, so the Queens is at like 1,000, 2,003 plus per square feet. New launch came out, Commonwealth Towers at 1,006 plus PSF. And if we were to run up and we compare actually the performance over that 6-year stretch, we realize that even though Commonwealth Towers was entered at a higher PSF, right, and most people want to enter at the Queens because it's a lower PSF, right? What we realize is that 6-7-year stretch, actually Queens only grew by about like $100 per square feet, whereas Commonwealth Towers grew about $300 per square feet. So it doesn't mean that when you enter at a higher PSF, that it will translate to no gain. So there are many factors as a combination on like the push factor that will drive property price of a certain development to go up. And so you must take everything into totality depending on what is your goals and objectives.
And of course, talking about this macro, overview perspective is also looking at if there are other new projects, right? So previously we talked about the 5 other plots of land that have yet to be developed. So this could be a promise of, exciting growth in this area as well.
Okay, so a quick glimpse of how the PLB lease reset calculator looks like. Basically, it looks like this. And this is how, example, we compare like Quad's resale property at Sengkang Grand. And what we do is that we just take so-called like a very close comparison, let's say a 3-bedder compact with maybe a 3-bedder bigger version in the resale market. And then we reset them back to both full 99s and want to see how will their PSF look like if both were being reset to a full 99s. And then that will then give you a good so-called like, sort of like sensing of whether are you overpaying a lot based on your new launch entry price, right? Yeah, so let's come back to this. We want to move very quickly into the site plan analysis, because for those of you who are interested in Botany, maybe what you want to know is that from our point of view, which are some of the stacks that you want to focus your attention on, because stacks in terms of direction, in terms of facing, are very important when you want to exit. You want to minimize the amount of obstacles that your future buyer will have on your particular. You don't want to, hold open house by your broker, right? And then when you're at home, of course, when PLB sells homes, we always ask our sellers to enjoy your weekend. Let us do the hard work for you. You go have coffee and shop and all that. But sometimes, as a home seller, you'll hear comments like, the buyer said that your view very noisy. It's facing the expressway, facing the substation, facing layout is odd shape and stuff like that, or too close to the next block, or the pool very noisy, so you want to minimize all that. So which are the best stacks in your opinion, Grace, for two-bedders?
Two-bedders?
Yeah, okay, let's say somebody wants to buy a 2+ study, your favorite stack.
2+ study.
743 square feet. The orange color one.
Okay.
2+ study, 743, there's only one layout, 3 different stacks.
1, 9, and 17.
Yeah, and they're all like 1 and 9, of course, the same facing.
Which one will you choose?
Okay.
If you were to buy a 2+ study?
If I were to buy a 2+ study, okay, it depends on your preference whether you would like internal facing or whether you would like to front towards the landed enclave, right? So for the 3 stacks, 2 out of 3 are fronting towards the outside. And I think, of course, when we are trying to analyze what is the best stack, usually we will look at where are the bigger units allocated, where has the developer placed the bigger units.
Yes.
Because we want to know, of course, when you're paying a higher quantum, you're paying a higher premium, the developer will kind of generally reserve the best view for this for these unit types, right? So I think can't go wrong if you try to tag along with them, to have the same facing. So if you were to take a look.
Okay, so orientation first. The external facing one towards the north direction.
Dairy Farm walk, basically you will look past to the landed Chestnut GCB enclave. Of course, you also have the internal facing in the center.
Here. And of course, we need to take note of the open plot in front of us, right? So the open plot, there's an open space, there's going to be government land sales. And you need to take note that right in front of it is a 1.4 plot ratio plot, which then means that it can build up to how many levels?
5 stories.
Right. And then on the right hand side, there's an educational plot, which likely will be maybe about 5 stories as well. So likely this, because it's very close to the landed enclave, is a lower right. So you are sort of protected in the sense. Okay, so Grace, let's just talk about your own personal preference.
Okay.
In the sense that maybe in 3 to 5 cents, you want to have an easier exit. So which type will you buy?
Actually, to be honest, I may opt for the internal facing one. Because for the external facing ones, even though we know that the plot ratio is limited at 1.4, which means that if I'm level 6 and above, I should generally be safe, right? But let's say if I want to have a kind of like more protected view, I want to know for certain that when I exit, my view will remain the same, then perhaps I might opt for the internal facing one. Right. Yeah, and then I think the internal facing is also not facing towards the 50-meter lap pool, so there will not be that much kind of noise or when the families swim and all that. So you do have that central water feature. Right. So I do think it will be quite a nice view. There's a good distance away from the other blocks as well, and then and then your greenery. So I may opt for the internal facing one.
This one is the water jet pool.
It's pretty
You're gonna shoot up to
therapeutic.
level 6.
Pretty therapeutic, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. So you will choose stack 17. Okay, can. Great. How about Yu Rong? If let's say you're going for a 3-bedder plus premium C5, which?
Okay, so C5 3-bedroom premium. Actually, there are only 2 stacks. Either I'm facing towards the landed enclave, or if not, I'm facing towards the German school. Once I look past the German school, I look towards Dairy Farm Nature Reserve. Personal preference, of course, stack 32. I'm just beside the 5-bedder, who's my neighbor. Yeah, so I want to enjoy the same view.
Of course, one reason that I also considered the internal facing one is also due to the construction.
Yes.
So yeah, perhaps when you know that your view will not be obstructed, but during those few years of construction, that's something that buyers will have to take note of. Sure. Yeah, the view will definitely still be stunning. Of course, if you're above level 5 or 6, and towards the landed enclave, we always know that it's quite protected. Yeah, but there will definitely be some construction view and noise.
Eventually, because all units will sell, rationale is because the newer land plots will be sold at a higher land price. And then these become like the old price tag, and now it becomes favorable and now it looks attractive in terms of pricing. And because the waiting time also reduces, and that incentivizes buyers who want to move in quicker. They don't want to wait for the entire
So,
run.
so no matter what, as you see from the past trending, is that even like the low floors balance unit, they will still eventually sell out because by the time all the other brand new launches are already at new pricing, and this one will seem like cheaper, right? Okay, but for now, some things to look at is that, for example, let's say if I'm selecting stack number 10, I will want to like firstly find out what is number 50 and what is this E and C, right? So basically you need to go to the floor plan. E and C is basically the substation and the generation genset, right? Okay, and then of course number 50, you need to take note, what is this number 50 is the bicycle park, okay. So firstly, if you want to minimize future exit delay, right? So what you want to do is that if you really love stack 10, because it's a corner plot, then you need to make sure that you don't choose the low floor first. Yeah, because like level 2 and 3, 4, or even 5, in future buyers are going to walk up to your balcony and say, hey, it's very near to the substation, it's very near to genset. Because some people that are very health conscious, even though there are no proven data, but some people that are health conscious will still be affected by this. All right. Second thing is that, of course, like stack number 32, right, Yurong's favorite. Naturally speaking, yeah, in front there's a 1.4 plot ratio. You want to get at least 7 or 8 floor and above. But if let's say you go for 2, 3, 4, you need to take note that it's very close to the entrance. There's going to be vehicles, grabs coming in and out, dropping off people and all that. And sometimes people downstairs might be talking and stuff. And then this might be a potential obstacle that people will bring up. And then of course, you're going to have like things like, you know, some people don't like to face towards the tennis court and stuff like that. So these are certain things that you want to take note of. One thing is, of course, this are cascading landscaping. So they are of a higher tier level. You might want to take note that if you choose something here of the lower floor, you might look into them at a very close level if you are choosing the low floor one. So these are just some observations. What about you, Rong?
Similar. So like for example, when you mentioned at the lower floors, facing towards like the cascading portion, because that's where actually the function room, the co-working space and the gym is. If you are too low floors, then sometimes you might not feel that you have the privacy because people is in the gym and they're looking straight into a unit. Yeah. So generally, if I were to say like if you're at a pool area, so sometimes when you're internal facing, aside from looking into function rooms or barbecue pit area, if you are facing like a pool area, sometimes it's quite nice to be on the 3rd floor to the 6th floor. That's where when you're in the bedrooms and the balcony area, you can actually enjoy the pool view because anything higher, you see more of your neighbors than the pool.
Yeah, yeah. So this others category is something that you always want to take note. You want to go and find out what are all the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way towards I. Of course, there's ventilation shaft as well. So there's number H, which is here. All right. So that's not really affecting too many people. So sometimes, like example, the bin center, which is located at the basement, which is D. So that doesn't really concern a lot of people.
I mean, we always say that if there's someone selling, there's someone to buy, right? So, I think because generally when we serve many different kinds of clients, right, they all have so many requirements. Like some they love internal facing, some they do not like to face your neighbor, some, you know, they like to face the pool, some they find it too noisy.
Correct.
So I think there are just so many preferences. So even like across us, right, when we share, it's basically our own preferences as well, right? Yeah. So I think in general, it also has to make sense with the price. You know, when you buy certain units, developers will put a kind of premium on certain units, certain facings, and it has to make sense with the quantum as well. So, you know, your quantum has to be reasonable vis-a-vis another stack that is exactly the same size as you. So perhaps my price is not too different from a different stack, and therefore there can still be that kind of demand when I want to sell in the future.
Right.
I think generally we are just trying to give you all these different factors to consider so that you can actually buy right. Because when you buy a right unit at the correct entry price, you're not paying too much of a premium. You're not trying to buy the cheapest unit that has a lot of cons. So all these make your exit down the road easier. And most of the time, that results in a faster time when you're putting it in the market. It results in a higher premium when you're selling with your neighbors at the same time. Yeah. I think one positive and one advantage of buying a new launch compared to a resale is this is the time where you can have the most choice of the type of facing, the layout they can choose from. Yes. Because often when you go into the resale market, we always have buyers that say, I wish that there is this certain stack, how I wish that I have this like facing this floor, but they are always not available, right? So that is, I think, the key difference also. Like when we can come into a new launch, you can potentially, if your queue is lucky, you can have the chance to have the best selection.
Yeah.
And to round this up, we also want to look at the maintenance fee, which I think is pretty decent. I mean, for 3-bed and 2. But surprisingly, the 3-bedders and 2-bedders, they're actually of the same maintenance fee, so they're of the same share value. 4-bedder is surprisingly okay, $434 per month. I mean, of course, take note that maintenance fee do change usually after TOP. Within the first year, that's being managed by a developer appointed, so-called like management office, right? Then after that, the management office key goal is to, and they have a KPI to hit, is that they have to formulate a committee within the condo within the first year and then hand over to the committee in the second year. So take note that sometimes during this handover process, depending on the neighbors that you have, they might want to opt for a higher maintenance fee just to beef up a little bit more towards the sinking fund portion. Okay, so we're going to end off with the floor plan analysis, and also we're going to end off with what we think can buy and cannot buy for certain bedroom types. Okay, so let me just go up to the floor plan. And maybe a very quick round is that, Rong, kickstart with the 2-bedders. Just a very quick round on the 2-beds comparison.
I think 2-bedders are very straightforward because 2-bed 1-bath, there's only one floor plan. 2-bed premium, which is the 2-bed 2-bath, there's only one floor plan, and then there is a 2+ study. So I think their pretty standard dumbbell layout is already quite. What's the best layout? I think what I like is for like a 2-bedroom, they sort of like tuck the kitchen at a corner near the entrance, so you can always make it feel more like an enclosed kitchen. Right. I think this appeals to people who like don't want an open concept kitchen kind of feel where like you are like dining within the kitchen area. Right. Interestingly, for the 2+ study, I will not be able to enclose it to formulate another guest room. Yeah, so I think that is a little bit wasted, I guess, in that sense. And for the 2-bed 2-bath,
the position of the study room is a bit, I mean, compared to some other developments, sometimes the study room can really be used as a
separate guest.
Yeah, this one is sort of like connected to the second bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just met Eunice for lunch. She went to the show flat. She said all the rooms very good size.
Yeah, the rooms are very good size.
Impressed with the bedrooms. Eunice, give you a shout out for visiting the show flat.
Yeah, okay, so the common room sizes are fantastic, especially from the 3-bedroom onwards. 3-bedroom premium onwards.
Did Eunice told you this?
No, I saw all the measurements. I see all the measurements, so I compare the measurements.
Awesome.
I think one thing what I like about like the 3-bedroom in Botany is that they all come with a yard. Because nowadays, a lot of times like new launches, they do not have like a yard provision anymore. And when it TOPs, most of the buyers that come in, they always say, oh, so where do I do my laundry? Right, then they have to find a place to either do set up laundry system within the kitchen, or they have to use a makeshift kind of drying rack at the balcony area. Right. So I love that there is a yard to actually do your laundry.
Right. Okay. The only 3-bedder with a kitchen window is the C5 layout.
Ta-da!
It's the only one. Look at this. Look at this. This is the only one.
Which is what I recommended with the 6.2 meter length kind of living room. Yes. This is a great layout.
This is the only, look at this window. This is the only one. Other than that, all the 3-bedders, of course, you have ventilation towards your yard. Okay, so I think the plus point is you have a yard, which is fantastic for all the 3-bedders. Take note that this is a PPVC kind of wall, because all the government land sales now, all the walls are not hackable. Most of the government land sales are already PVC requirement. If you want to hack down walls, you have to go for en-bloc projects, right? So just to take note, for those of you who love to hack down walls, you cannot hack down this dividing wall between your bedroom 3 and living room if you want to have an enlarged kind of living room, right? And then, of course, as we move towards the biggest one, which is this 5-bedroom, 1,500 plus square feet. Okay, take note that if you buy the top floor, as mentioned in our penthouse floor plan breakdown series on our PLB main channel, is that this is the ongoing trend. There's no more beautiful duplex penthouses anymore. Somehow, I don't know why developers are not building it. Maybe it's not cost efficient. I'm not sure, but
there's no incentive for developers to build them because last time there is a GFA incentive. They can maximize their profit.
So you can't find like beautiful duplexes. Basically, your penthouse is less high ceiling, and you have to pay for it. Okay, so you have to pay for the 21 square meters void space, and you get a high ceiling. Of course, you can build a 5 square meters kind of loft thingy. But the 5-bedder, 1,539 square feet, basically you have a junior master. Pretty standard layout for most of the new launches now. And let's come to the final verdict, right? Okay, I wouldn't say it's a verdict lah. Okay. So I'll start off first. I personally think that the 3-bed compact will be the first to go. 2-bed premium low quantum will be the first to go. Because of the fact that the 2-bed premium is a little bit close in pricing to 2-bed 1 bath, I think people will just pay for the 2-bed premium, 1.2 plus, 1.3 plus, it will all be cleared off. Then they will start to clear off all the $1.7 million 3-bed compact. 4-bedders, very good entry, 2.4 plus, 2.5, pretty decent. I think these 3 categories are my top choice. So basically 2-bed premium, 3-bed compact, 4-bedders will be the first to go. How about you, Grace?
Okay, so if we were to look at just now one of the units, one of the types that I mentioned, the 2-bed plus study, right? I still feel that because it's below the 1.5 mil mark, and if you were to look at 1.5, right, it's basically the launch prices of some of the smallest 2-bedders in the RCR. So compared to Terra Hill, for example, the 2-bed is launching at about 1.5 minimum, right? And those 2-bedders are also smaller. And then if you were to look at the site plan, it's also not as, I would say not as premium as something like this. So personally, I would think that there would still be a demand. Let's say someone that has a $1.5 million quantum, they will be looking at the 2-bedders here, and then they might opt for the bigger ones. Just for more space.
Right.
And they do not mind living in the OCR, which now is pretty convenient also, right? It's near the MRT.
Right.
Yeah, so I do think that is a good quantum to enter.
All right, so to end off, who do we think will be the core audience of this particular new launch at the Botany?
I think it will attract people who are already accustomed to staying in the Western region, and they want to be in a locale where they are very near nature parks. That is one plus point. And of course, I think now with a Hillview MRT station and in the future Dairy Farm Mall, which has like childcare center, supermarket, 11,000 square feet, 5,600 square feet of food hall, it really gives like doorstep convenience to this project as well. And I think the facilities are great. Actually, we have like 3 pools for like a 380 plus unit
And the
kind of
tennis court,
development
and
a
basement
tennis court.
parking.
Yeah, so I think if you like a good combination of exclusivity, like not too many neighbors, but yet you don't sacrifice on the facilities that you can enjoy, like I think like the density ratio is perfect. So I think it will attract this buyer pool.
Right, awesome. How about you, Grace?
Yeah. So I think that it will be quite attractive for families who maybe want to upgrade and they want to live in the area. They love the nature around, and they also want to be one of the first movers to tap into this area that is largely still pretty much undeveloped, right? So a lot of exciting things coming up. They can expect some pretty exciting growth if they were to buy into this area. So if you love the landscaping, you love the location, you are a family type and you want something that is a comfortable, good size. It's not too small as well. So this kind of family demographics, or even certain people who are looking to buy and then after that sell after a few years, young couples and families, they might be looking at this project.
Right. Awesome. Great. I mean, similarly, I think in terms of the main audience will be HDB upgraders. I have just, of course, took from one of our favorite website. Of course, we have to credit Theo Alida. Because so the number of dwelling units basically as of 31st of March each year, and of course, I think the latest data was 2022. So this is basically in the township of Bukit Panjang. So if you look at this, 37,000
Dwelling units.
Right? And of course, for the entire town, there's about 121 HDB resident population as of 2018. This will of course be one of the core audience because people who are very accustomed to living usually within the same township, they want to upgrade back to the same area. So this will be one core group audience. Of course, this group is, I would say, a mid-sized group compared to some of the larger towns, but it's not the smallest HDB town. So I would say it's still pretty decent. And I think it will also attract probably younger generations whose parents are actually staying at maybe Hillview or maybe staying at a little bit downwards towards Choa Chu Kang, Bukit Panjang, or maybe even Upper Bukit Timah. They might want to live within this same region. Yeah. All right. Great. So we've come to the end of the first new launch review banter series. We hope that you enjoyed this review with us at the Botany at Dairy Farm. And we hope to see you on episode number 2 where we review Terra Hill. All right. Take care.
Bye.